From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Ryan Aber, OU beat writer. Ryan, defensive tackle. We've seen maybe some guys that Alex Grinch has been most excited about at that interior position, and Jalen Redmond and LaRon Stokes, and he's using both of those guys in a rotation. What are we seeing there, and what does it say maybe in a larger context about what Alex Grinch wants to do defensively?
Well, I think when you look at that defensive tackle spot, that shows what Alex Grinch wants this defense to become. He wants to have 22 guys that he feels comfortable about throwing out there and have the number twos. He feels just as comfortable with the number twos as he does the number ones. And really that's the one spot on the defense where you can point out and say it's a true 1 and 1A type of scenario with Stokes and Redmond. They feel really good about both those guys. There's some other spots where you see a little bit of it. Cornerback with Jaden Davis. I think especially that other defensive end spot with Ronnie Perkins, and then when Kenneth Mann comes back and some of the other guys that they've got there, they feel pretty solid about that one. But that defensive tackle spot with Stokes and Redmond is exactly what Alex Grinch wants this defense to become.
Do you think, Ryan, I mean, both those guys, Grinch really raved about both of them, their athleticism, their abilities, even before we saw this defense on the field in the season. Do you foresee, they're platooning there, but do you foresee instances where you might see both of them, that you could, maybe they're not playing that tackle spot, maybe they're in some sort of other spot at any point in games coming up?
I think it's sort of going to be hard to have both of them on the field, especially when you look at how productive Ronnie Perkins has been on that other side. Again, they say that's a defensive tackle spot. It plays a lot like a defensive end,
right,
in what they do with that rush linebacker that they like to bring up there. But I think it's going to be difficult, but I think it's good. You're going to see the percentage, I think, switch a little bit. You know, you could have one where it's 60-40 Redmond playing over Stokes, another vice versa. You might even see it go a little bit further than that with 2/3 or even 3/4, depending on what kind of player they need there. Yeah. Stokes is more of a bigger, more traditional type of interior guy. Redmond still isn't quite there yet, although I think he's a lot closer to it than he was a year ago. He's more of a defensive end type. But the good thing is that gives them flexibility, because that's something we haven't seen with this defense the last few years. As much as they've talked about it, there hasn't been that flexibility on the field, and I think that you really can see that on the defensive side there, because you know, against a Big 12 team with the quicker, more high tempo offenses where you might need a more nimble guy out there, you've got Redmond. Yeah. If you need a guy who can get in there and just bruise in the middle, then you've got Stokes, who's a little bit more well-suited for that. So I think that's a really good thing for Calvin Thibodeau to have to deal with.
We talked about this last week, and lastly on these two guys, this the bringing in guys when you maybe aren't expecting to see a backup in there. You know, we've talked about the linebacker position. People kind of freaked out during the UCLA game.
Why is Brian Meade playing?
Exactly. Where did Kenneth Murray go? But to have these two guys who are both so talented, willingly splitting and showing what can become of that, how important is that for just the overall framework of Alex Grinch and what he's trying to sell to this defense, of what he really wants it to look like ultimately?
Yeah, it's really good for the mentality of this defense, and it goes beyond those two guys, but you really see it shine in that. And it's two players buying in to that rotational philosophy and buying into they don't have to be on the field, 80 snaps a game to be successful, that taking that break in the first quarter can save them to feel much more refreshed there in the fourth quarter in a critical drive. So I think those two guys are buying into it, and there's no doubt that leaches into the rest of the defensive line room, the rest of the defense, and you see other guys really buying into that philosophy.
Well, we'll see what it looks like on Saturday. Texas Tech comes to town. It's the first of the Big 12 passing offenses, although Alan Bowman not expected to be passing for the Red Raiders. Still a test for the Sooners. We'll see what those spots, those platoons look like. It's an 11 o'clock kick on Saturday, so be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at Oklahoman.com and every day in the Oklahoman.